Welcome to Abuelas en Acción, a multicultural and multi-generational podcast for our common good. I'm your host, Marie Dahlstrom, and I'm so happy to be here today with my comadres and co-hosts, Rosemary Celaya Alston and Consuelo Zaragoza. Rose, we are so happy to have you join us today, and we've missed you.
Back at you, mujeres.
Thank you to you, our listeners, for joining us at our virtual roundtable, where we join together to honor the memories and legacies of our abuelas, those who are living and those who are past. We are honored to have guests who inspire us by telling us their stories. Our guest today will talk about the power of documentary, the power in making our stories heard and documented. In recent years, the field of documentaries have become more diverse. The mission of the Color of Congress is to build the collective power of people of color in the documentary field so it can be a more powerful voice for social change. Our country and world has so much at stake in this moment in the history of humankind. We are dealing with the impacts of climate change, war, gun violence, and threats to our democracy. Raising our voices for peace and justice will make a difference. The novelist Milan Kundera once wrote, "The struggle of man against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting." Memory, our memory, is a powerful and plentiful resource. Today, we welcome Mariana Quezada, who is a junior at Chapman University in Orange, California. And I recently had the honor of meeting Mariana at the Chapman University Mariachi Panteras performance. This was my second time being able to attend their wonderful concerts. And Chapman University is my alma mater, and it was such an honor to see them perform. And I just need to share a little tiny story before I introduce Mariana. I was sharing with students the role my mother played in really pushing me to go to Chapman because I had gone to visit. She came with me back in 1974. It was a long, long time ago. And she went with me. I had received a scholarship and I went to talk to the counselors. And I left and I said, "I can't do this. This doesn't fit with me." And she said, "You are going." And I'm so grateful. I listened to mi mama and I shared the story with the students, and so many of them said, "We had a similar experience." Either our mamas or our abuelas said, "You are going." So we are grateful to have the support and the love for our familia. Well, Mariana Quezada will talk about her familia and her studies and her career aspirations, and we're looking forward to our conversation with her. Mariana is a first generation Mexican immigrant, and she is also the sixth child of 13 siblings. Her family keeps her very busy at home, and she has a lot of responsibilities. Mariana is also a junior at Chapman University, and she is majoring in broadcast journalism and documentary. During her time at Chapman, she involved herself in the arts such as dance and music, and she is currently a guitarist in Mariachi Panteras, a mariachi group that began during COVID as a way for Hispanic students to share their culture and connect with their community. Welcome, bienvenida, Mariana. We're so happy to have you here with us today.
Muchas gracias, Marie. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm happy to be here today on the podcast, Abuelas en Acción.
Well, can you please share with us a defining moment in your life? We ask all of our guests this question, and we really love to hear what is a defining moment in your life?
I would say a defining moment in my life would be when I started out at Chapman, because prior to that, I had just immensely involved myself in um, my education, like high school and middle school. I started um, like really like trying very hard in school, I was getting really good grades and I was doing all these things. I was the head of the broadcast program at my high school. So I was doing all these things, but not with the passion of wanting to pursue that, if not with the passion of I have to get good grades, I have to get good, I have to be good in school. That way I can get into a good college and they could pay for my schooling and I could get so many scholarships because I have so much good grades. And then with that mindset, I just wanted to essentially use college as an escape from my household, from my family. So I didn't really go into Chapman really having like this passion or this, this intent to have a career, this intent to be somebody, because that's not something that I saw in my community. Before this, when I heard you guys introducing yourselves, and you tell me about your degrees and your masters and everything, I was very impressed because I don't see that in my community. I don't see the grandparents that I see or the elderly people that I see, or even just the like people around my parents' age. They cross the border, they don't speak English, they probably sell flowers in the middle of the street, or they have like a little cart. So, so like to see all of you guys and to see what I can possibly use like my degree for, because I succeeded. That plan that I had in high school to get all those good grades and to get scholarships, I now have a full ride at Chapman. And that school was very expensive. So it was a defining moment for me when I got in, because I was like, yes, like I need this break. I need this break from my family. As Marie mentioned, I'm the sixth of 13 children. So, and we all live together in the same house. So I had so many responsibilities. I felt like I had way too much to do. When I was doing my homework, I had a toddler by my feet. I had like, like an infant. I had to be carrying one of my siblings. Like I had to be having like them near me while I was doing homework, and it was tough. It was extremely tough. Just having such a large family. And, I feel like my mom was always pregnant, like me and my siblings were like one after another, like um like a year, less than a year apart. So with all these siblings, I really did just use Chapman as an escape from that. And I did get offered housing, which was my plan. I wanted to live somewhere else, even though Orange is only like 20 minutes away from my house. They offered me housing, um, and I really wanted to take it because my parents really did not support me going to Chapman. They wanted me to continue to fulfill my responsibilities at home. Um, and I, yeah, they did not want to give me a ride to school. It was like 20 minutes, but they did not want to give me a ride to school. They said they were too busy. They said that since it was my decision to apply to Chapman and to attend Chapman, I had to find my own rides there. So I had to take the bus for like 2 years. And it was like an hour, more than an hour, early in the morning and at night, because I would spend all day at my school and working also a job that offered me 19 hours a week along with my classes. So I was very busy. And yeah, so they really did not give me much support, and that was hard for me because I would hear my classmates talk about how their school was fully paid for, all the things that their parents would give them, and just the wealth. I'm not sure if disparity is the word, the gap between my background, my how do you say, like my family. My family has a low income background. We live in a low income city. My dad gets paid and his salary's below the poverty line. So that was also something very huge, very a drastic difference. Like I would hear my classmates talking about how when it was COVID, they had to they were complaining. They were like, "Oh, like this is one conversation I remember distinctly. They're like, "Oh, when I got COVID, like my parents just sent me to live at one of our houses." And I was like, "One of your houses?" I was like, I was like, "What?" And all these things. They're like, "Oh yeah, like one of our cars, one of our this, one of our that." And I was like, "That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me that you guys have so much in excess." And I was over here just the complete opposite. I used the food pantry at my school. I learned a lot of things to be independent, to create my own schedule. I learned the requirements to keep my scholarships. Um, so yeah, I would say a defining moment in my life was when I started attending Chapman and I didn't have any support from my parents. And my mindset did change. I started attending that school for me since I decided not to dorm, just so I was like, I think it's not really mature just to, just to not fully take advantage of this awesome gift that has been given to me. I did not realize like what a blessing it was to have a full ride scholarship to a very prestigious university. So through Chapman, I was able to get more independent. I feel like I did mature from high school, and I am enjoying my time at Chapman. And I've also grown at home, so I would say all around, it's been a very good for my situation at home and for my education.
Mariana, you, you have just given us such a wealth of your experience uh, to talk about, to share with our listeners, and we are grateful to you. Um, I would like to share. Mariana and Consuelo and Rosemary know it, but our listeners do not know that I had a similar experience and I had no Mariachi Panteras for support when I went to Chapman. I was the only Latina at that time, and it was very, very lonely. And so, what you have talked about is really an affirmation of why it is so important that we have other people in our lives who have similar experiences, and why when you heard Consuelo and Rosemary and I talking about how important our relationship has been. When we moved to Portland many years ago, there weren't very many Latinos, and in particular, Latinas in positions of authority and administration, and people with graduate degrees. Like you, I didn't have people. I grew up in an immigrant community and family, and I didn't know anybody who had a bachelor's degree, much less a graduate degree. And so thank you for sharing that. And let's talk about it. Let's talk more about it because it provides so much rich support and information for our listeners. Rosemary?
I I think you've provided some insight also for many youth that struggle with the desire and sometimes the demands of a family versus our own journey of wanting to make it somehow, some way. And the differences of what that's like. It's not that you're abandoning any one part of that, but you're trying to grow and provide yourself an opportunity to look at this world even with bigger eyeglasses, even though you're not wearing any. But to be able to do that, I think you sort of have answered number two a little bit in terms of your journey to Chapman University. What has been the last 3 years like there?
So my first year was that transition period. And by the second year, I think I was fed up. I think I just wanted to drop out already because Marie said that she was the only Latina at Chapman, and sometimes I feel that way in my classes. In my classes, it's the film school, so it's smaller, and there's only about 8, maybe 15 students per class. And sometimes I am the only Hispanic student, Latina student. Um, and so I really was getting very lonely because, like I mentioned before, like the difference between my classmates and Chapman is a very expensive school. Um, I think tuition is like 60,000 and then dorming is like 15,000. So it's very expensive. It's like about maybe 80,000 overall with all the expenses per year. And so it is extremely expensive. Like my dad makes nowhere near that amount. Um, so the the difference, I did not feel like I fit in. The conversations that my classmates were having, their experiences, I felt like they were very privileged and I just did not really feel like that. And the people that I could relate to, the people that I did feel seen with, was the staff, the custodial workers, you know? I felt like I belonged with them more. I did not feel like I belonged with my classmates because it is a predominantly white institution. So I would be walking to class or I would be doing errands for my work, and I would see the custodial workers just talking in Spanish, just having a good time, just cleaning, whatever, like listening to their music maybe while they were cleaning. So and I'm shy too, so I didn't really engage. Maybe just a smile here and there or a wave or whatever. But I did feel more connected to them. Like when I saw those people and the color of their skin, and their features and the way that they would talk, like even though I don't my family's from Zacatecas and from Jalisco, so I don't have that skin color of like a typical Mexican, but I still felt like I belonged with them. So that was an important aspect for me to see, even though they weren't like students or anything, like that was representation for me.
Mhm.
Custodial workers. I was like, that is something that I just like whenever I see them on campus, I look forward to passing by them, whatever. And also in the cafeteria, now there's one or two ladies who know me. Because in the summer there would not really be any students, and I would be working through the summer at school in my work study job. So when I would go to the cafeteria to grab a bite to eat, they started knowing my face and they started knowing me. And yeah, it was nice. Like I feel like we have a really good relationship, me and like the cafeteria ladies. So whenever I do go to the cafeteria, I do feel very like, because I do sit by myself and that's lonely. But before I like have a little conversation with them, they ask me how it's going, so that connection that I have to these workers at Chapman, that's beautiful for me. And as I mentioned before, like I did feel very lonely in my class, and I still do. I did try to talk to people, but I feel like we were too different that we just never like clicked. And it's not like they were rude or anything. It's just that it never went farther than like a polite conversation or a polite, like, oh yeah, this test was so hard, wasn't it? Like, yeah. But it would never be like, oh, let's hang out after class, come over to my dorm, or like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? It was just, the French, well, I guess like acquaintanceship or whatever, the relationship with my classmates, it stayed in the classroom. And I would see them post on their stories that they would be hanging out and they would be going out and they would be doing all these things. And so I did feel really left out. Um, but what made me stay in Chapman, because I was feeling very lonely, what made me stay at Chapman was when I found Mariachi Panteras.
So
So,
let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your life as a musician and playing with Mariachi Panteras. What has Mariachi Panteras meant to you and your fellow students?
my dad has been playing the guitar my whole life. Um, and I think watching him, like I did want to learn and I did want to have that I did want to learn. But I think he favored my brothers. So he like I would be asking for like, oh, like can you teach me? Can you help me? But then he would focus that attention over to my brother. He's 1 year older than me. And yeah, and so he bought him a guitar and he like, he wanted him to play and he wanted him to learn. And my brother just never picked it up. And so I kind of like I did try, like I had a few friends at church who played the guitar and they like showed me a few things. But then like I got busy with school in high school, so I just forgot about it. So Mariachi Panteras, I knew that I wanted to play the guitar. So I went to one of their concerts at the end of my freshman year. I went with my mom and my sister, and I was just like, I went to see how they performed and how the group was because I was interested. And then I looked at the guitar players and I looked at their fingers and their strumming pattern and how they would change chords. And I just wanted to see like the level of difficulty. And then I was like, I think I can do that. I think I can do that. And so afterwards, afterwards, I went to talk to Dr. E, the director, and yeah, she emailed me a code to join the class. And yeah, and then that summer I was excited because I knew that at the start of my sophomore year, I was going to be in Mariachi Panteras. So that's just a little backstory of like how I joined.
And I would just like to add, we've interviewed Dr. Tammy Yee. Oh my gosh. She is a beautiful human being. And she is a gift to everyone, to young people, to everybody who knows her. She is a gift. And the other thing I would like to add is what I've heard from talking to different um, students is the sense of that you are familia. Mariachi Panteras is familia. And what an amazing gift that is when you are on a predominantly white campus of affluence. Thank you for talking about the disparities between income levels and experience, because it's very true. It was true for me. It continues to be true. So we would encourage any of our listeners to, if you are feeling alone on campus, or if you're considering applying at a camp to a university that might be predominantly white, um, address your fears. Of course, acknowledge them, but then look for support and look for opportunities. And if you don't find them, create them.
Yeah, I thank you. Gracias, Mariana. That was wonderful that you feel so open to talk about your experience. And the other thing that I want to add to what Marie said is that you have the determination and passion within you. That's why, even though it was very difficult, you found a way because you already had set a goal, that you're going to go to Chapman. You saw all the disparities and the difficulties, but you continued. That's internal fortitude. Y tienes ganas, you wanted to get there and do it. So that's really, really, really wonderful.
I just want to add as well,
yeah.
You found some cheerleaders. Marie said, create your own. You've got some cheerleaders that are living their dreams through you as well, in terms of the staff that you were talking about. They can be the greatest support in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Consuelo, Rose, how many of us have made friends with support, the janitorial, the support staff, the only other brown people around. I remember when I worked at Oregon Health and Science University, I remember the woman who served food. I could every day, when I would go to the cafeteria and she'd give me a big smile. It was pretty hard working at OHSU. And I would go and she'd always ask me, how are you? And I always remember her serving me, and I'm very grateful to her. Her smile carried me through the day.
I have the next question for you, Mariana.
Okay.
Can you tell us about your passion as a student in the Department of Broadcast Journalism and Documentary? And then what do you plan to do with all this great studying and work that you're doing?
Okay, so yeah, so in high school I was the head of the broadcast journalism class. And I was really proud of that class. I was really proud of the broadcasts that we put out. Um, so I joined my sophomore year to the broadcast class. It was an elective. I had always been interested in like film and editing. I had taken a technology elective in middle school and a yearbook elective as well in middle school. And there I learned like photography, cinematography, and then in the technology class I learned like video editing and iMovie and Photoshop. And so I did take an interest in all these things. And so I carried that over into um high school. And my freshman year, I remember I did do like one or two films for fun. And I edited them and I shot them and it was nice and I had fun. And then so when I found out that there was a broadcast journalism elective, because they would play morning announcements weekly in the classroom, but it was through the look of like a live newscast. And so on my freshman year, they actually would do it live on these older TVs, and they every class would play them and tune into the channel, and they would do these morning announcements live. And so that was something that I looked forward to every week. So when I joined my sophomore year, I was expecting that too. But then they switched it from live to just to upload it on the YouTube channel, and then the teachers play it every morning, or every week. And so I was interested and I had some ideas about what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to bring to the class. And so I spoke with my teacher. I remember her, Miss Fureborn. I spoke with her and I think I ended up like the beginning, like the first few weeks of school during the introductions, like I wrote her like a little, like a few paragraphs on a piece of paper about what I thought I could bring. And like, like these, I was very excited, like these things that I feel like we could implement to the broadcast. And she read it and she shared it with the class the next day, and she ended up making me broadcast and video manager. And I was so excited. And I was really proud of myself because the only I was the youngest one in that class. I think there was only a couple other sophomores, but since I have like a later birthday, then I am like 1 year younger than my class. So I was the youngest one in that room. It was only a handful of freshmen, of sophomores. It was like a two or three, and then the rest were juniors and seniors because it was an easy class, which I didn't know when I joined. I joined because I was really interested. So because it was such an easy class, and the teacher was very chill, the juniors and the seniors, they just didn't really like try. They just didn't really do anything. Because it was like they're already graduating, they just want to be over and done with it. And I wanted to like, I was like, this is great. Like we have so much equipment, we have computers, we have like a room that we can film in. And I was like, and we have like a whole hour to plan our broadcasts. And so, as I said before, the broadcast was just a live TV streamed with morning announcements, and there would occasionally be like a video at the end. A really popular one was like, oh, exposing lunch line cutters. And so they would hide and they would record people who cut the lunch line, and then they would interview them afterwards. And they're like, oh, like we caught you. And it was the most it still I think is the most popular video on our broadcast YouTube channel for
That's
my high
great.
school.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do videos like that. I wanted to put out more videos. I wanted to create lots of content. Like this is something that I was really excited about. And I'm getting excited talking about it because it was awesome. So um so she let me, so Ms. Fearborn, since I was the broadcast manager and the video manager, we spent like the first 2 months like training, I guess, like showing people how to use the equipment and things like that. And then after that we started pitching video ideas. We started choosing our anchors. We started choosing who was going to play what role in the, and then slowly as I got comfortable, she gave me more freedom, more creative freedom, and more like power. And so we had originally been assigned into small groups, just our table groups. And we would, as a group, we would pitch ideas, we would have to shoot our own video, and we would present it. And then we would show it in class, and then we would give like compliments or critiques and see what needed to be fixed. And so it was great. Like we were producing lots of videos. I implemented my own things. Like I implemented like a media calendar where it would show what group was responsible for what each week. And then since I was video manager, it wasn't even part of my job, but I was like, oh, well, let me see what you guys have. Like, let me see what you guys can add. And I would like personally like go over it and edit it again. And I would say, oh, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that, or go back and film this interview because you need it. And I did take a lot of initiative, and I was very, very happy with the work we were putting out. And I noticed that the first year, since I was a sophomore, the juniors and the seniors, they really were not into it, because they just saw it as an easy class. They just saw like, if it's a group project, we'll just leave it to one person and the rest of us can just put our names on the video. But then I think as we implemented more and I gave people specific roles, then they couldn't get out of it, and they started like more people started participating. I feel like our videos got better. And when people didn't have like an idea, I started assigning them when they would run out of things to film at the school, like upcoming games, upcoming plays, upcoming concerts, or just things like that. And then I would be like, oh, there's this new like vegan place, vegan taqueria, and it just got opened up by an alumni of Godines. So why don't you guys go do that? Or then like the Santa Ana Literary Fest. Like I was like, oh, why don't you guys go film that? Things like that. I would like send them. I was like, oh, there's this new thing. And so I really took charge. And then I saw that because we were so active, we would post on our Instagram, we would post on our YouTube. My teacher entered us into I think it's called SNO, Best of SNO, School Newspapers Online, because we also had the Grizzly Gazette, and we would add videos to the articles. So that was something that grew as well. And we started winning awards, we started winning grants, we started winning competitions, we started getting money, and our class doubled. By my junior year, we had so many we had a waiting list to get into the class that they just opened 2 sections.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like people are passionate about making videos. People want to be part of this class. Like it's great. And so I felt like I had a really, really big role in that. And Miss Fearborn, she was always supporting me. It was hard because I would be like, if I had to tell my parents, oh, I have to stay later. I have to stay like 1 hour later at school because I have to film something. And then they would be like, no, like, you can't be staying after school. You have to come straight home. You have to take care of the kids. You have to clean this. And so it would be hard. It would be really hard for me to fulfill my my assignments from the broadcast class. And so it made me feel like my parents were an obstacle. And I would try to explain to them, but they wouldn't understand like what it is I had to do. And oh yeah, and then so I would want to join like other clubs. I would want to join like there was a Polynesian dancing club, and I really love dance. And I would want to join that club, but my parents they didn't understand like what it is that I needed to spend extra hours at school for. And also school dances. I was never allowed to go to any school dances because my parents didn't understand like the American culture. They didn't know like what was going to happen at like a dance. They didn't feel like it was very safe. They had a lot of these like I would say fears. They had a lot of these fears because they just didn't understand what I wanted to go through and what I wanted to experience and how I wanted to be able to connect with my classmates. And so it was pretty tough on me, but I was very proud of all the work that I did at broadcast. And I feel like because my parents didn't allow me to do anything else outside of school, and broadcast was during the school day, so it was a period. Um, um, so and it was a class. So I fully immersed myself in that because I had like no other extracurriculars. But yeah, that's where my passion started. I know I went off a little bit, but that's where
It's
my
okay.
passion started. And that's oh, actually, yeah. So I was building up a portfolio. I have one more thing to add. I was building up a portfolio of all these videos that I did. I was happy with broadcast. But I still wanted to, like in the back of my head, like I had always wanted to do movies. I had always wanted to work on a film set. I had always wanted to work with actors. I wanted to do movies. I wanted to like bring stories to life, you know? And I thought that was like so much funner than broadcast because broadcast was like news and it was simple. It was like at a simpler level because it was high school. Um, and I knew I didn't really want to do like any hard news like CNN or whatever ABC. Like I didn't want to do like that level of news. I had fun doing like a fake news broadcast in my school. So I applied to Chapman for film and television, or the yeah, film and television. And I wanted to do movies. And so I was working on my portfolio and my creative resume. And and so you just had to submit a lot of videos that you've done. You had to show your work. And one of the prompts, instead of like an essay, it was you had to shoot a short film. And I was like, great, like I want to shoot a short film. But my parents, again, like I borrowed a camera from the school. I had a laptop from the school. And I tried to talk to them about it. I was like, I need to meet up with like some actors, like some of my friends can act in it. Like I need to have some days where I can film this. Like I need to do this, you know? And they just didn't understand. So I ended up having to do it like in secret because they didn't like I'm not like I was never allowed to go out, you know, to anybody else's house. I was never allowed to like, you know, hang out or have people over. So interacting with people outside of school to film a short film was very hard. And so I ended up recruiting some of my friends from church, and we went over to my grandparents' house one time and we shot it. And I had all the footage, I was gonna edit it. And all my videos that I had done for the broadcast were on my computer. They weren't really on the YouTube channel, they weren't on anything else. They were on my computer, they were on my iMovie folder. And so what happened when I was editing is my computer was plugged in and the cable was like taut, and it was from the plug and against the wall to the table. It was like a line, you know, like a rope. And so I accidentally, I don't know what I was doing. I forgot it was plugged in. So when I got up to leave to, I don't know, to grab something, the computer fell on the floor and it broke and it just wouldn't turn on. And the worst part was it was a school computer too, so it wasn't even my property. And I was so devastated. I was like, oh, all my work is gone. Like years of work, 3 years of work that I accumulated. I was like, it's all gone. And I was like, it was only on iMovie. It was not on YouTube. It was not downloaded. It was nothing. So I was devastated. I wanted to give up and I didn't know what to do. So I contacted after a few hours of like I didn't know what to do and I didn't tell anybody because I didn't feel like I had any support from anybody. So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna email a admissions counselor or person and I'm gonna tell them what happened. And so I got the email of, I think his name's Christian Aguilera. He had visited my school a lot of times, and he knew me well and he knew my sister, because my sister also went to Chapman. So so I emailed him and I was like, hey, listen, this is what happened. This is what's going on. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, there's no chance that you're going to get into the film major now because you don't have anything to show. Um, and the deadline like is coming up. So you're not going to make it on time. He said, but what you can do is you can switch your major that you applied for to something else. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, let me switch it to something else. And I saw broadcast journalism and documentary, and I never even considered it before then, because I knew it's not what I wanted to do. But then because of all these, and I was like, okay, well, I might as well give it a shot, like who knows if I'm even gonna get into Chapman. So I submit the request. It changed my application from film to broadcast. And then later I found out that I got in, and that school gave me a full ride. So immediately I was like, yes, I'm going to Chapman for broadcast and documentary.
That is incredible. Again, you have the fortitude to go forward. You found solutions and you did it. So we can see your passion. I mean, you get excited when you're talking about film and broadcasting, and it's great. It's pretty amazing. So you have your career goal. We have Rosemary has a short time with us that she needs to get off a little bit here. So Rosemary, do you want to add or ask anything?
You're up. Yeah.
I just want to thank you, Mariana, for providing your journey to us and being so honest about some of what those challenges are. I think it's going to be very helpful for listeners to hear you that have struggled in the same way. So appreciate that. And thank you for having me as well.
Thank you.
And Mariana, you have given us a wealth of insights and sharing your story. It is such a reminder that of the many challenges that those of us who are first gen college attendees or graduates, it's, our families work so hard and they want us to have a better life than they had. But so much of the time, they do not know what that life could be because they're working really hard. In fact, my mom, she's 102 and a half. You met my mom when she came to the Panteras, to the Mariachi concert. But she will tell people to this day, I have no idea what Maria does. I'm just proud of her, and so your challenge, and I would say to many of our listeners, the challenge is, how do you reconcile those different lives? Because you come from such beauty and a familia that's there, and you've got so much. Um, it's just an amazing gift. And then you go off into the world and you learn, I know going to Chapman has opened up a world you had no idea existed, as it did for me. And I know for Consuelo and Rosemary in their college ventures. But I would say they don't have to be either or. And it's, opening up our world to include all of it. And I would like to add, don't give up on the graduate degree, because I got a full ride, both bachelor and master's degree from Chapman, completely paid for. And so it is, even though we may not see those career paths in our worlds, in our childhood, in our familia, look for those mentors, for those people who can inspire us to be all that we can be, because you have so many gifts to offer this world, Mariana.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Consuelo, did you want to say anything else before we wrap up?
No, I just wanted to say, I just can see you're so, what you want to do. It's in there, and it will define itself at some point. It kind of reminds me of, you just have so many options, but maybe you don't see them all yet. But one thing will lead to the other, because you have what it takes. You as an individual, where you want to go and what you want to do. You've had many different kinds of experiences and obstacles, but and our parents, I'm sitting here thinking of my parents, but all of us, right? But the thing is, that has propelled you, right? You know, your parents want the best for you and they may see it in a different way, but that has, como se dice, that has led you to what you need and what you want to do. And your parents are proud of you and they will be proud of you, you know, and I just think it's really, really wonderful what you're doing. So I know you're going to continue, and dale ganas.
Yes.
Thank you. I
Maria,
appreciate that, Consuelo.
did you have any final thoughts before we end?
Oh yeah, I brought a book to recommend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Hey.
Yes.
Just grab it. Okay, look. Black Hearts.
Black
I don't know if you
Heart.
can see it, but it's by Nicole Castroman, and it's pretty good. Like, you know, it's like it's my favorite book. I read it online because there's like a free website where you could just like read books for free, and I loved it so much that I bought it from Amazon used because it was cheaper. But it's perfect. Like it's a period piece. It's a romance, it's got adventure, like it's set in like maybe like the 1800s or something. Um it's just like a romance, a life story. You have to read it more than once because this author is so clever. She includes things that you catch the second time. You're like, oh, that's why she said this, or oh, she's hinting to this. And I can't really fully explain it without spoiling it because it really is, it's worth the read. And I try to read it. I don't read it so often because I want to like forget so then I could be surprised again. I don't want to have it memorized. I want to have like a new experience every time I read it. But it's awesome. It's romance, it's clever, it's witty. Like it's perfect. So yeah, I recommend Black Hearts.
Tell us the
Black
name of
Hearts.
it again.
Black Hearts by Nicole Castroman.
Black Hearts. Okay, and can you please give us also the link where you're able to find books for free? We try to,
Okay.
we encourage people to check books out from the library or look for free resources and then buy if you can, like you did. So this is great. What's the website?
I think it's Teen Reads. I can send it to you and then you could include it later. I
I
forget that
will
exact
include it.
name.
I will put it in the description. Yes,
It's
absolutely.
like free reads for teens or something.
That's great.
But I'll send it.
Okay, okay. Great. Well, you have offered so many tidbits of gold and tesoros to all of us, and you are just amazing. I'm so proud of you, and as a Chapman alum, and I'm just you will do it. And you've, as Consuelo and Rosemary both said, you have addressed barriers and you've found ways to deal with them, and you are a better person for that. And we know you haven't defined yet exactly. You don't know. None of us know what's ahead for us. We think we know, we hope we know, but we don't. Life has an amazing way of taking us on different paths and different journeys. But as Consuelo said, and I 100% agree, your inner strength, your desire, your ganas, those are your gift and a gift to all of us. Thank you, Mariana, for being with us and sharing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on your guys' podcast. It's been a good experience. I learned from you guys as well.
Well,
Thank
and
you.
thank you to our listeners. And we are so honored to have had you join us today. Share our podcast and YouTube video with your friends. And this has been an amazing interview with Mariana Quezada. And we thank our sponsor, Familias en Acción Portland, Oregon, for their commitment to abuelas and their generous support. Join us again here on Abuelas en Acción. Gracias.